Okay. I want you to just look at that picture. I mean, this is what I meant when I said drop cap. Okay, that is just the letter D that is being
Here.
beautified. I can actually read the title of what that is. That is the very first image in the Red Book. And the title is The Way of What Is to Come. That's what those larger letters say with the red backdrop. That is Latin down below because that is a quote from the book of Isaiah, I believe, in the Bible. But I want to make sure you can appreciate that picture. You see where there are the stars up there above. And if you look close, you can see the zodiac signs. So he's put, that part of the night sky of the zodiac. And then when you go, there's the moon. It looks like a star. You go down below, there's the sky. And then it looks like a beautiful Swiss town. I always think of that as Zurich. I don't know. I always imagine that being Lake Zurich. And of course, Jung spent a lot of time on Lake Zurich. It wouldn't be out of the question that was that castle, from the perspective of that castle that he built, and just imagining looking back into Zurich. I don't know. I made that up myself. Look what's down below there, though. You see that kind of freaky underworld that's down below in the water? Well, folks, this is the entire project of the Red Book, of looking at that landscape that we're all oriented to, where we have buildings, human life, and we go about our business. We could call that the waking consciousness or the rational. But then there's this thing of what works we love. And what's wonderful about his depiction, I mean, you wouldn't find any of that at the bottom of the list. But you can see where it's kind of fanciful. It's a little scary, but it's intriguing. It kind of draws you in. He starts the Red Book trying to have a conversation with what he called the spirit of his time. And that would be that land above. He is attempting to have a dialogue and say, hey, look, here I am. I'm struggling. I've lost my way. I want to talk to you and see what you would have to say to me. But what happens is there's a voice that emerges and he calls it the spirit of the dead. It keeps interrupting the conversation and keeps superimposing itself on the kind of conversation that he's having up there above. In the spirit of the depths, of course, we know what he's talking about, right? He's talking about the unconscious. And he's talking about the archetypal nature of reality. Not just what should I do with my job, but the archetype of work in the world. Not what I should do with my marriage, and should I have an affair in my marriage, or should I take on a lover, which she was reflecting on, and I think we all know the decision that he made about that. But instead of just that, it would be the archetype of the beloved, the archetype of connecting to the feminine. And so the entire Red Book is the tension between what is above and what is below.
I just keep focusing on fire and snake. Oh, the fire coming from the depths, and whether we want it or not, it's burning us.
Absolutely. Folks on Zoom, we're commenting on the snake that has the crown, the fire that's burning below. And Christina has pointed out that, or Christine, right? has pointed out that that's a universal symbol, the symbol of the snake. And it often represents healing. But it also represents trouble, right? It's kind of that thing of the poison can also be the medicine. Yeah, and I think the fire, especially in alchemy, the idea of going through the fire and being burned, being transformed, it fits perfectly. And folks, this is just the first image. I think, and do remember that he had finished all of the black books before he started putting this together, so it does have a nice unity of effect because he wasn't making it up as he went along.
So it has the retrospective. In a way, it's a shame though, it would have been interesting to see it by then.
Miriam has said something interesting. She said, well, okay, the red book is a retrospect because all of the black books were filled and then the red book was created. But in those black books, we see what came out originally. And I'll tell you something that all of the scribes that, I don't know, scribes would be the right word, the Secretary of Health that we have, they were often saying, you're leaving out the best parts. Why did you scratch this out? It's more confusing when you don't add this. So there's a great desire, especially among scholars, really poring over those black books, seeing what he did. Okay, I want to open. I want to open the floor for folks in Zoom. If anybody has a comment,
Should I leave this up or?
yeah, let's just leave that up.
Okay.
What was the D reference?
The D is really the first letter for the word the.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that's they call them something. You said that.
Their vague is commented.
And that means the way.
The way of what is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is where the manuscripts were done. All through the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Helen pointed out that in the Middle Ages, folios were created and used in this style. And Carl Jung did that very consciously. He wanted to create a book that had the feeling and the look of a medieval folio that the monks would make in a monastery.
Well, when I look at the landscape, I had to blow this up to 200 to get it on the screen, which is a tip for Zoom. You can, you can blow this image up. I'm aware of the buildings in the background and the church spire, and I'm immediately remembering that vision of Jung's with God. And I'm thinking that it's quite possible there, this is a foreshadowing some more of the biblical elements that will come out as he develops his red book.
Yeah, Michelle makes the point that the highest point in the building, in that scene, that little Swiss town, is the church steeple. And I think she's exactly right. It is either higher or equal to the mountain. Notice that. I mean, if we measure that, it looks like it's pretty equal, actually. And that is in fact a prelude. Like I said, the first 4 writings in the Red Book are direct quotes from the book of Isaiah that Christians use to suggest that the birth of Jesus is being prophesied. And I think that that's one of the ways he understood the Red Book. That there was a birth that was taking place, and there was a wonderful thing being born into his world, which was his true consciousness. Helen, you had a comment.
Yeah, as to what was left out, I'm just very aware in my reading work of how when we write a dream, we're translating something pre-verbal into language. And so I'm really curious about how in the Red Book possibly, or there were no illustrations in the Black Book?
That's a good question, and I honestly don't know the answer. I think there may have been pencil sketches.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think most of us do when we're writing down our dream as little sketches. But so I'm wondering when the scribes say what was left out, if there's a picture that precedes or is simultaneous with what's being written of the dream, maybe the picture has even more unconscious information than the words and
Interesting.
language. So I'm wondering about the timing of those, whether they're simultaneous or after or.
Well, those are really good questions. One, so Helen was reflecting on the fact that a lot of content can be lost. As soon as we start to write about a dream, we are actively revising.
Yeah.
And so the pictures might be, even a more accurate snapshot. There are some pencil sketches in the red book, in the black book. Black books, I don't know how many, but one thing that he was true to, that he held himself to, is the order of the dreams and the visions and the daydreams. They always stayed in the same order. He was not up to revising that. But, he did acknowledge that the active imagination process does include the difference between having a dream and then telling somebody the dream. You're already in active imagination doing that. And then when you write the dream down, you're reshaping it again. And then when you decide to paint it, instead of just render it in pencil, you're reshaping it yet again. And he believed that is an important process, that it's not a losing, it is a gaining when we get to do that. Okay. Well, folks, I would like to read or have read a very short chapter called Refinding the Soul. And there's a second image that I wanted to put up there. I think I could find it.